to obtain it, and what impact it has on our lives. Three things we're going to talk about. Peter writes in 1 Peter to offer encouragement to suffering Christians everywhere, to give hope. Let me say that again. Peter writes in 1 Peter, his goal, his purpose for God is to offer encouragement to suffering Christians everywhere and to give hope. Do we offer hope? Do you offer hope? Do I offer hope to people around us? These people were sent out by Christ, or by God, to offer hope to the world. The hope to Christians around the world. The hope to lift people up and to give them that little word that they needed to hear today. And you know, we can come to church and we can feel warm and fuzzy and we can get along and everything's wonderful in God's house. But the real battle, I use that word again because it's the 4th of July, the real battle is when we leave this place. The real battle is when we go to work, wherever it is we work. The real battle is when we go on vacation and the person in the hotel didn't bring you the towels that you requested like 17 hours ago. The real battle is the struggles in life when somebody cut you off on Quaker Road. The real battle is someone just didn't say something kind to you. That's the real battle. And of that, how do we respond to that? Do we offer hope? It's not easy. It's not easy. But we're going to get there this morning. Let's share together 1 Peter 1, 4 and 5. Let us share this together. And into an inheritance that can never perish, soil or fade. The inheritance is kept in heaven for you, who through faith are shielded by God's power until the coming of the salvation that is ready to be revealed in the last time. So the message here this morning is tapping into God's power, into his resources, and to realize we live for today because I realize what happened 2,000 years ago, but I'm a person that brings the 2,000 years ago into today. Because we're dealing with today, aren't we? Are we dealing with today? We're going to deal in our own lives with the good, the bad, and the ugly. And what we do today has a lot to do, if not everything to do, with where we go at the end, at the last time. Has everything to do. You hear the word at the pearly gates with the gate open when I get there. How was I, God? Judgment day, right? We'll all be judged by how much we loved. Not by our works, by how much we loved, how much we cared for one another. That will be our judgment. What steals God's power? What are some of the things that steal God's power? So I think of steal God's power. We've just cut ourselves off of the source. We have just revealed that we no longer are connected to the source of that power that turns the light on. I think of a story. My grandkids come over often. We have these little scooters. When I was a kid, little scooters never had motors on them. Today they have motors on them. Do you know this? Have you seen some of these? And you got to plug them in to recharge them, right? So the grandkids would come over, and they would do their scooters thing down the driveway. We got a 500-600 foot driveway, and it's down hills, and it's a ball to do, right? Well, a couple years ago, they would leave in a hurry, and they would never plug them in. They would never plug these scooters in. So I would do it. I would go and plug it in just so they'd have it when they came back and be ready to go, right? They would never do it. And I'd plug it in, and then when they came back, they'd enjoy it again. But then they would leave again. They'd play with it, they'd leave again, and they would never plug it in. And I'm like, really? I mean, you know, I'm the one not getting it. So after a while, I stopped plugging it in. I stopped plugging in that little scooter. So they would show up, they'd have to charge it. They couldn't ride it when they first got there. But the message is that if we stay plugged into Christ, the resource is there for us all the time. It's our life circumstances. It's life that takes us away from it all. And they didn't care about tomorrow. They cared about today. Their scooter worked. But then when I stopped plugging it in, I still don't plug it in to this day. Because they have to deal with the consequences of not plugging it in. Because if I kept plugging it in, it would just go unnoticed and they would just keep riding it. And they'd throw it in the garage, like they do. They don't put it anywhere. They'd throw it in the garage and they'd be gone. And that's okay. You know, you love your grandkids. Our theory in our house, our grandkids can get away with anything. It's the adults we have to watch. But you know, they didn't have the power when they returned for their scooters. They had to wait a half hour or however long it charged, and that was okay, but it's like they unplugged themselves. What do? How do we do? What steals God's power? The devil, the enemy? Like it or not, the enemy is after us all the time, just like God is knocking on our door. The enemy will attack us in places. It's real. Disobedience. What is it for you? What is it for me? I can't answer that. I can answer for me. And I answer right here. That's who I answer to. I don't answer to man. I'm here not because somebody wanted me here. I'm not here because a friend of mine said, you're called to do this, you should do this. I'm here because God asked me to be here. And He's the one I have to answer to. You know why? Because with that, I find peace with it. I'm okay right here. You know, we do things in man's strength, and we do things because somebody wants you to do it. The reward isn't nearly as much as if God is calling you to do it. If God is calling you to do what you do in this world, we're here to work for Him. As I've said repeatedly, Jesus wasn't sent here to be served. Jesus came here to serve. Missing worship. Staying connected to God's power. Another thing that steals us. I don't know for you. I can tell you for me, missing church is a big deal. We would travel, and we do travel. We haven't traveled, which is COVID much. But we travel quite a bit. We're not retired, but we travel. I'm a baseball junkie. I've been to 21 professional baseball stadiums. And my bucket list is to visit all of them. Will it happen? I don't know. But wherever we travel, we visit a church on Sunday morning. Doesn't matter. The last one I think was Pittsburgh. Methodist church, all wooden inside. It was gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful. But missing worship, for me, my week is not the same. My week is just not the same. Giving more than Sunday worship. I'm not here to make you feel guilty. I'm talking about the things that draw us away from the power of Christ. Giving more than Sunday worship. We've already talked about this, working for man and not Him. When we get up in the morning, you need to ask God, God, what do you have for me today? What do you have for me today? But more importantly, it's to listen to that little voice. It's that little thing that's whispering to you that you just don't know how to respond, or you're not certain. And I can tell you my experience has been, when God is talking to me, I need to listen. Because I've been through my whole life and I've not listened. Are you kidding me? I've not listened to what God had to tell me. But the rewards are just phenomenal. It's just great. Or how about this one? You're not going to want to hear this one. You're a control freak. Let's just call it what it is. If somebody wants to do something that you've done for a long time and you've decided it's time for me to step back, well, they can't do it as good as me. Or I didn't do it like that. I've heard those words about enough in churches that I've served. Well, we don't do it like that here. But if God is in control, then we get ourselves out of the way. Get us out of the way. Let God be in charge. God is in charge of this church. Whether you believe it or not, I believe that. God is in charge of this church. You're a control freak. Get ourselves out of the way and let God do what he does best. And that saves lives. Because I don't know about you, but I know about me. He needs to save me from my sins. We're not a church of saints, we're a church of sinners. Peter tells us in verse 6 and 7, and you don't have this up there, you only have the 2. So be truly glad. There is a wonderful joy ahead, even though the going is rough for a while down here. These trials are only to test your faith to see whether or not it is strong and pure. It is being tested as fire tests gold and purifies it, and your faith is far more precious to God than mere gold. So if your faith remains strong after being tried in the test tube of the fiery trials, it will bring you much praise and glory and honor on the day of his return. Again, it's going back to the scriptures that we read early in 4 and 5. What are we setting up here? What are we doing in life? Are we working for man? Are we really, today in our lives, at the different ages that we are we preparing ourselves for the day that Christ returns? Are we preparing ourselves for life beyond? This is just a little flash for God. Our life after will be wonderful and beautiful. Do we believe that? Amen? Amen. Amen. Do we believe that? So those are a few things that steal our power. Now how do we obtain the power? How do we obtain the power? Dean, would you turn the power on?
Is it that simple? Just turn the switch?
The metaphor, anyways. As I said earlier about the armor of God, Ephesians 6 says, put the full armor of God on. That's a tough world out there. You know, my granddaughter just graduated from high school, and we all know about what the kids went through with high school and graduation and the lack thereof and all of that. And my heart bled for her, and you know, she's a top 5 student in the class, and she's going on to college, and their whole lives were turned upside down. I mean, they had no idea. And it's the unknown that I think causes a lot of anxiety. But I pray for my grandkids. Here's another one. You know, the kids are growing up and they're going into this world. I'll tell you, and I can tell you a lot of them don't have God in their heart. My heart bleeds for them. My heart bleeds for them to not have Christ in their lives. And if you don't have Christ, what do you have? Right? Put a full armor of God on. What does that mean? How does that happen? How does that really happen? Full armor of God. What do you equip yourself? The guy that goes out in the battlefield, gets his gear all on, puts his ammunition in his pouch, puts hand grenades here, he's got weapons all around his body, he's going out in the battlefield to go fight the battle. He's all prepared. Might have a compass, might have a map, going to places unknown. He thinks he's well prepared. Are we well prepared to go out this door and go out into the battlefield? Are we prepared to know God's Word? Are we prepared to understand what God wants from us? Are we prepared to lift Christ up in those dark moments, in those difficult times with people? People cause... The world out there is a cruel world. It's a tough world. And we're to walk differently. We're to look differently. We're to act differently. People need to know us by what we say and do. How is it for you and how is it for me? How do we obtain it? How do we plug into the source, the very source? We talked about the soldier story that I shared with you and how he lacked trust. Well, why did he lack trust? He probably had a little Bible with them. A lot of the soldiers have little tiny Bibles with them, which I can never read today because they're so tiny. But he came unplugged. Somehow he came unraveled. Somehow he came unplugged to the source that God offers freely to all of us. To be faithful, to be plugged in now. we're talking getting plugged in. To be faithful, what does faithful mean? When you think of kids in school with peer pressure, don't think adults don't have peer pressure. Adults have peer pressure too. I was watching a program the other day. Dr. Phil. I like Dr. Phil, not all the stories. I was watching Dr. Phil the other day. And this is not a great story to hear, but the point is that there were 4 boys that were having a party while the parents were out, and the parent was a cop. And there was alcohol involved, and there was one girl there, and they said more girls were coming. Well, anyway, it was about a rape situation, and the girl filed a complaint against them, and long story short, at the end of the story, Dr. Phil said, somebody needs to be the hero here. 4 boys and 1 girl, it was not a good situation. Alcohol was involved, made it even more of a difficult situation. They put themselves in that situation. The boyfriend of the girl started the whole thing, and Dr. Phil said, somebody needed to stand up and be the hero. Somebody needed to say, this isn't right, let's do the right thing here. We face life situations like that ourselves, as adults. We're faced with difficult situations, difficult decisions, and we have to say, God, help me make the right decision. And the hope is, because the boys in that situation didn't even think it was a big deal. That's the worst part. Consciously or subconsciously. But they were drinking. One boy said he had 10 shots. 10 shots of alcohol. You're pretty inebriated. But if we say we're Christians, do we stand up and do the right thing in those difficult moments? That's the message. Do we do the difficult things? To stay plugged in, that's how we do it. Because the reward of that, if the one boy says, this isn't right, I'm taking you home, because she was drinking too. If the one boy said, we have to do the right thing, I'm taking you home because this isn't right, he's set apart. We are to be set apart for Christ. We are to be different. Do we spend time with Him? Do we spend time with Christ? Again, staying plugged in. Do we spend time with Christ more than coming here on Sunday morning? Do we plug in? That's a rhetorical question, not to be answered. Do we pray? What's our prayer life like? I'm huge on prayer. I really think that when I get into a difficult situation, I'm on my knees. Maybe not literally, but I'm on my knees. I'm asking God, help me. I can't deal with this. And they're often. I had a situation this week where we've got somebody that owes us a fair amount of money, and I finally called the father, and we haven't been paid in a long time. We went through the whole COVID thing, non-essential business and everything, and we're just finishing it up. And we were dealing with the son, and I finally called the father this week because he's apparently the purse string of the finances. And I prayed before I called because I didn't know if I would be met with ridicule or like, what do you mean, or I don't understand, or whatever it was the unknown, of course, right? So I'm praying before I called. And, I said, good morning, hope you're doing well. I was up by there, and things look healthy, business is good, et cetera, and I started the conversation with kindness and compassion. And the conversation was just wonderful. It just was wonderful. There was a resolve, and it was met with no anxiety on my part whatsoever. I don't even know why I had it at the beginning. But when I started praying about it before I made the phone call, it just made it that much easier. Because you know why? I had my armor on. I was prepared. I was prepared for battle. How's your prayer life? Here's a good one. Do you seek the good in everybody? I was in a much larger church for many years, and I was a lay leader, and I was the person that would identify people in their gifts and talents. Do you seek the good in everybody? Do you find something good? Because everybody has something good in them. Even the robber, there's something good in them. You've heard of stories where where a robber was in there and they were holding hostage, and the person being held hostage would talk this person into giving up. Because they talked about something that was important to the robber, something that they saw in them. Here's an even tougher one. Do you love the unlovable? Do you love the unlovable? That's what we're called to do. It's easy to love somebody you love. You hear stories again. Last week we heard a story. The woman, initially you're not putting your arms around that person that just killed my daughter. But she got in a place where she was able to love what may have been the unlovable at the moment. It's about us. It's not the person that did the crime. God wants something different from us because we say we are His. Love the unlovable. Peter again goes on to tell in verse 8 and 9, you love Him even though you have not seen Him. You trust Him even now you are happy with an inexpressible joy that comes from heaven itself. And after further reward for trusting Him will be the salvation of your souls. So the byproduct of being plugged in is that happiness and that peace that we talk about, that I talk about, because the peace is what I'm looking for in life. And this isn't about me, this is bringing honor to Him. But to trust Him because the rewards are not just here on earth, they're here and beyond. Now, what impact on our lives it has? What impact on our lives does it have? Being plugged in, what impact does it have on our lives? Want to take the shade off? I'm going to keep you moving over there. Taking the shade off. Staying plugged in, but more importantly, let your light shine. Who are we? Who are we? Do people know who you are? Do people really know who you are? Yeah, they might know your profession, they might know what you do, but people, do you express how much you love God? And I'm assuming you all love God, that's why you're here. Do people really know who you are in Christ? I pray that if they don't, that you work on that. Because it will not only bless others, you will be blessed by it as well. Because people need to hear our story. People need to hear what God means to us. We are it. God's not sending us other people. We're it. And if somebody comes in the door, they're going to hear the same message. They're it. We're tagged. We're it. What will it bring? It'll provide peacefulness, joy, fruits of the Spirit, basically. And then it goes on to some other things that might be a little more difficult, and that is the ability to deal with life. We're not all equipped with all the gifts of the Spirit and all the fruits of the Spirit. We're not all equipped. There's some people that can just go talk to anybody. There's some people that can be compassionate and understanding. There's some people that can be grumpy and still love God. And there's a purpose for that person. Because God says for each one of us that we have a purpose here. The ability to cope. Really important, the ability to love. We're not all lovable all the time. We might think we are, but we're not all lovable all the time. We're not a big teddy bear to wrap your arms around. But God's power, when it's plugged in and your light is shining, it gives you the strength and the power to deal, to cope, and to love people. The ability to love. But another very difficult thing is the ability to be loved. You know, I just gave a compliment to one of my employees the other day. I mean, I went on, he wrote an article, and I get copied on everything, on a project we're working on, and I complimented him in the morning. I said, you wrote that very nice. Now, I've been working with him about 2 years on how to write write some of the emails instead of just the point, but put a little bit of compassion, put a little bit of heart into it, and to be appreciative when you send emails out. And he did one that was really nice last week. And I gave him this compliment. You might have thought that I would have told him the worst thing in his life that ever happened, because he just didn't deal with it very well. He didn't deal with the compliment very well. I'm like, I'm just trying to give you a compliment. You did a great job with that. So to be loved, are we able to be loved? Are we able to be loved? In 1 Peter 4 and 5, if we could read that again. And into an inheritance that can never perish, spoil, or fade. The inheritance is kept in heaven for you, who through faith are shielded by God's power until the coming of the salvation that is ready to be revealed in the last time. Where are you? Where am I in our faith walk? I pray that this walk that you're on is so much more than Sunday morning, so much more than my words, so much more than people you're around, so much more than life. When I took over this responsibility, having gone to many, many churches before here, something happened to me that it's God's working in and through me with everything, but I felt as though I was, and I don't mean this arrogantly, even a little bit, but I felt as though God had risen me up above, looking down at his children, and has empowered me to stay focused on what he wants me to do. I pray that you can experience that. It's unbelievable. And it cheers me up. Because Christ is the foundation of our family, we must be devoted, loyal, and faithful to him. By obeying him, we should show that we are his children. We must accept the challenge to live differently from the society around us. May we not just hear the word, but live it. Amen. Amen. And everybody said, Amen.